Hi there, Jason here from EnglishRaven.com. Hope this finds you well. Uh, Another Materials Design Masterclass for you if you are to believe that I'm capable of doing masterful materials. Um, we've already covered in the previous tutorials the idea of headers and footers and a kind of practical approach to using background. What I'm going to show you in this one is how to make buttons. Or what I normally call them in a more technical sense is activity sequence markers, or just sequence markers, and they're those things that you put into a document to basically organize it in stages, so that one, read the text, two, answer the questions, three, discuss with a classmate, or it could be A, B, C, D. You know what I'm talking about. Now look, obviously you could just put them in, you could just type A and then the question. But what I'm going to show you is how to make something that's that stands out a little bit more, looks a little bit more like what you might see in very professionally produced materials. It's not actually that hard to make one, and I'm going to demonstrate for you how to make one now. Remember, these are all these little nifty little things you can build. You can save them in a template, and then cut and paste them from your templates into the new material that you're developing. So the first thing we want to do to make our button is to go to Insert, and this time we want a circle. Now the trick is to make it big. Alright, make a nice big circle like that. Now you might want to decide at this point what color you want your button to be. I'm going to go with a blue color. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to choose a fairly vivid blue, like that. Okay. Now, what I'm actually going to do now is I'm actually going to choose a gradient. So when you go into your shape fill options, you'll see all these options here. If you're using Microsoft 2007, if you're using another edition, this menu might come up somewhere else, but you're looking for the gradient option. Okay. And the one I'm going to choose is this one. Okay, it's this one down the bottom here, and you notice how it just makes it darker at the bottom there. Right, so we've got a sort of sphere now. Now what you need to do is go back to your home option, copy that circle and paste it, and what we want to do is make a slightly smaller version of this circle now in front of the other one. And you might need to play around until you get the dimensions right. One way of checking if it's is to highlight the other one as well, and to see whether the squares match up. Another option you have is simply to align them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play around with this a little bit until it looks like it's a circle of about the same dimensions as the other one. It doesn't need to be perfect, because we're going to shrink this considerably. Now before we do anything here, what we want to do is see this circle in the middle. We click on that as opposed to the outside circle, the one behind it. We want to click on this middle one. We want to do the same thing, except we want to reverse the gradient now. So you go to your shape fill, go down to your gradient option until that menu pops up, and what we did in the first one was that gradient down in the bottom corner. We're going to do the reverse now. We're going to do that. Now you can see we've already got the look of a button just by that shading, just by the use of shading there. One thing I am going to do to make sure this is lined up properly is I've clicked on one box, I've held the Shift key down and clicked on the other one, and I'm going to go over here to this Align option. Okay, and I'm going to align them center and to align them middle, and that just perfects the alignment there to make sure that they are lined up and it's a perfect match. Now see, we've got a black line here. We've got black lines around the two circles. Please forgive the enormous sound of a truck rolling by my house just there. Sorry, I hope it didn't bother you. We don't want these black outlines because we're going to shrink this soon to make it a button that can actually be used on our page, and those black circles are going to come out really vividly and sort of destroy the look of our button. So what you do is you click on your circle again, you go to your shape outline, and basically make it the same color as the circle you chose. And do the same for the outside one. Okay, now you notice how this is looking much more like a button. Well, I hope it is. And another thing I should mention is for your shape outline, it's a good idea to make it a quarter thickness, where you get that option of weight. 3/4, reduce that to 1/4, because we're going, as I said, we're going to shrink them. Now, what you need to do is click on your big circle and your little circle, alright, so that all the squares have appeared there, all the dots and squares, and right click and go to this grouping option. See the group, and then it says group. Now what group does is it basically turns these two images into one image. It melds them, merges them together. And as you can see, we've now got one image, which will stay like that. And now what we want to do is shrink this. So we go, whoa, so we hold the corner down there and we go, whoa, to the size about what we want. Okay, so on a page of about this size, maybe we want the circle to be about that big. Now you can't see it very well, right? So let's go in a bit closer to have a look. Now this is a pretty vivid one. You may not like to use colors this bright. You know, it's sort of up to you what sort of works for you. And our button is now going to appear like that. Now, what we want to do now is put something in there in terms of, so I'm going to go as close as I can so it gets nice and big, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my a text box. I'm going to insert, I'm going to go and choose the square option, and I'm going to sort of slide it over the top of that circle like that, and it's disappeared. Well, it hasn't really. It's just behind this square now. Now you right click on that to add text and center that text, and I'll go with letters to start with, but we'll choose A, highlight it. Now you could use Calibri, but what I'm going to use in terms of font, you could use Calibri. I'm going to go with Kandahar because I think it sort of looks nicer in these bubbles. And I'm going to go about 16 size in the font. Now go to your text box here and click on it so that all the squares appear. Go to your format, get rid of the shape fill, so it says no fill, and get rid of the outline, so there's no outline. Now look, wow, we're there. Okay, we've got our A inside our button. Now obviously if it's black it's not going to be very easy to see, so let's change that font color for the A to a white color. Okay, now already you can see we've got a nice button. We can go one little step further. What we could do is highlight it, right click, go to font, and choose the engrave option. Okay, the engrave option there, and what it does is it just puts a little bit of black onto it for you. Now this looks like it's in the middle of the button, right? But if we go back, you know, well, yeah, it sort of works, but you may find that when you first made that text box, you know, the letter didn't come in there very well. It's just a matter of clicking on that text box and using your up down arrow keys, moving it around until you feel that it's kind of right in the middle, and test it out with a couple of different letters like C. You know, look, C is going to look like it's all over the place up there. So what about D? D sort of works. See, now it depends on the font and the letter that you type, but you know, they do appear in different places depending on the letters that you use. E, for example. See, that comes out perfect. Alright, what about B? Yep, that looks good. A. So it's a matter of just sort of trial and error, prodding around there. Now, we have our button, and we have, now I'm holding the shift key down. Alright, I've clicked on the button to get that. Now I'm holding my shift key down and I'm clicking on the A. Okay, now that's brought up all of our layers. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my cursor onto one of these boxes until the arrows appear. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to go to this grouping option again. And what I've done now is I have merged that all together. So when I click on it, it stays together. It moves around. Okay, now if I shrink my page back a bit, I'm just using Control and rolling back the mouse dial there. Excuse me. You can see this is about how big it'll appear on the page on our resource. So it's about the right size, and the good thing is because we've grouped it, we can move it around. Okay, and if we make more than one, click on it. All right, press copy. Now don't press paste. Okay, not yet. If you still have this highlighted and you press paste, watch what happens. Right, it copies it inside that image and it looks really weird. Alright, so go back. What we want to do is we want to click out of it, just click on your actual page and then press paste. And what happens? It pops up, see? Pops up. Now you can move this one around. Okay, and this is just a nifty way of making bright, very professional looking little buttons that become menu options. You know, we can now insert some more text. I'm going to use another text box here just to show you what this will look like. I'll add some text. Look at the following pictures. Pictures and discuss. Okay. I'm going to highlight that because it's an instruction. And I'm going to change that to Kandara to match the actual button font, and I'm going to get rid of the shape fill and the outline. Okay, and you can see that just lines up nicely with that. Now I might make the font a little bit bigger. I might make it say 12. Okay, and that's what it's going to look like. And you can see it looks much nicer than just typing A. I'll get rid of that for now. But that's what our little rubric and our little sequence marker will look like. Now, that's I made that look fairly simple. Remember, you could make those in any sort of colors. I think the trick is to make sure that you save that now in one of your master templates as one of the tools, because then you can just highlight that, hold down your shift key, highlight that as well. You could then copy that and go over into your other document and just paste it in and then change the letter here. You can change this to B or C or D. Alright, or you could change your actual rubric. And it's just a way of building a tool in one of your templates that allows you to move it and change it and adapt it. So how's this going to look if we put it all together? So this sort of brings me to the end of the first stage, I guess, of setting up things like your background, your header and your footer, and your sequence markers. So how does that look if we whack it all together? Alright, I'm going to now show you how this would look if we put it all together. I think this needs to be moved just over towards this side of the text a bit. Right, so going back into our header, I'm going to insert a box. So this is just a quick review from tutorial 1. Okay. Because we've got a blue marker here, I'm going to go with the blue theme. I'm going to fill that with a moderately dark shade, and I'm going to go up and across and down a little bit like that. Alright, so for our top footer, then I'm going to copy and paste that and put our bottom footer in. And remember, like I said in that tutorial, I'm going to change that to a lighter grey color, like so. So we've got our header and footer in now. Now I'm going to insert another box here. I'm going to put in some text, and let's say, what sort of name can I think of here? Free talking, or free talking. Alright, look, I just thought of that on the spot, so don't give me any grief about how corny that sounds. I'm going to go with my Sego script style. I'm going to make that about size 24. I'm going to make that font blue, because we're going to go with a blue theme for this particular resource. I'm then going to get rid of the shape fill and the shape outline. And then I'm just going to drag that down until it's a bit closer to the line, maybe not that close. Okay, so that's sort of the name of our resource. I'm now going to go back to insert. I'm going to put in a rounded rectangle. I'm going to put that over here. Remember what I said in the first tutorial, this is just for us to put in a specific title for this particular resource, or for the students just to put their names and the date in. We'll change that to a light blue as well. Okay, and I'll insert another text box down the bottom here, because remember, you need to make sure you take some ownership of your material, so that people know where it came from and that it's something that you've made, whether it's your blog address or your address. I'll go with Kandara there. Put it at 12. Okay. I won't bother playing around with the colors there yet. Just get rid of the shape fill. No fill, no outline. Alright, and we will center that like so, and make it a bit more of a manageable size. And we're going to put this down in the bottom corner like so, and we're going to try and sort of line that up with that. So we've got a bit of a line going from here right down to here, so I want to move that over a little bit more. Okay, so we've set up our header and our footer for this particular batch of materials. Okay, now background. Okay, as I showed you in tutorial 2, what I will do is I will put in another square. Now notice how often I'm just using squares and working with squares. I'm going to make that a fairly light shade of grey. I'm then going to go over to this option here to send it to the back. I'm going to send that to the back, and I'm going to drag it all the way across there and all the way across there, which is our basic background. Now what I'm going to do is insert another shape. Remember, we're working on the background stuff now. I'm going to put in one of these curved rectangles. Okay, and this is going to be a sort of speaking resource. This is what I'm thinking. So go to my shape outline, I'll get rid of that edge, just drag that off and just straighten it up a little bit so it's not like a huge curve. I'm going to put that like this, because this is where some of our prompts and that sort of thing are going to go, or our follow-up. I'm going to insert another shape. Sorry if I'm going a bit fast here, but you know, I've actually shown you how to do these things in the previous two tutorials. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put this up here behind. Now you might be wondering how the heck I got that behind there. That's because this A and text is not actually here in the background, it's on the front screen. We are working in the back screen with the header and the footer. Okay, so what I might do is now bring that over and just get the curves about the same. Okay, yep, that looks reasonably good. Okay, and what I've got now, I will go back into my main screen. Okay, if it lets me, that is. Alright, I'm now back in the front screen again, and I'm going to put in a couple of pictures. Now I've made smaller versions of these pictures this time. There's our sundial. Okay, put it in front of the text, make it smaller like so. Give it this nice sort of snapshot look, and put it over there. Okay, and we'll put in another picture. Now I've actually made smaller versions of these files. Last time I tried it I used the full size and it really slowed down everything, so I made some smaller size versions of these images. Okay, we're just resizing here. and we're going to use the same basic style there, but we're going to twist this around. Okay. Okay, I've got a couple of pictures in there now. I'm not quite sure that really works, but anyway. Anyway, so there's our sort of main frame now. We've got this theme of time. Might want to make these a bit smaller. They're a little bit over the top at the moment. Bear with me. Probably getting a little bit too clever for my own good at the moment. Okay, go back into our background and pull this back down again. And let's have a look how this now looks in terms of our print preview. And it's looking pretty good. We've got our header and our footer nice and clear. We've got our rubric there with the sequence marker, and we've got our pictures. Okay, so if I close that now, well, it's getting all grumpy on me again because I'm trying to do things too quickly. This actually happens to me quite a lot in most of the programs I use, because once I get pretty used to making stuff, I go at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But you know, if you work on these skills, you'll find that it's not actually that hard to do it. But that's just manipulating the header, the footer, the background color, a couple of shapes in the background. And what we can now do is, as I said before, we can copy and paste that and move that when it gives me the square option. Yeah, I've made a pretty busy document at the moment. Look, normally this wouldn't slow down like this. The only reason it is because I've got a screencaster going on a very large screen, and that's what's slowing down the processing here. But basically I can now move this rubric over here and have a B, C, D, E option, or whatever it is I'm looking at making. But that's how we would fit this idea of using buttons. Now remember, because we group them, we can move them around as are. And we could then make this B, and we can have a different prompt or a different thing to go in here. Okay, and we could have B, C, D, or whatever. We could really manipulate it. Now those buttons are pretty bold and pretty bright. You might not like to make them that bright, but they certainly do help to draw your learner's attention to each part of your lesson according to the material. And as long as they fit in with the general color scheme, you know, they'll turn out all right. It's good to draw attention, and once you get up close to them, if I can zoom in a moment, you'll see. I'll go back to the print preview. If I go up nice and close here, you can see these buttons actually look quite nice. You can see they look like a lot like what you see in printed books, except we've just made it in Microsoft Word here. And you know, even though I've made this a little bit sloppy, you can see we're looking at something that looks considerably more professional and you know, well formatted than, you know, something that's just whacked onto a blank bit of paper. And again, once you've made some of these little tools like your buttons and your backgrounds and that sort of thing, it's so quick to make new ones, new material. You're just cutting and pasting from existing templates, and away you go. So that's how to make a pretty button or a sequence marker, and that's also a quick recap of some of the other skills that I've looked at in terms of your header, your footer, your background, you know, in terms of a practical background. So I hope that's been helpful. Just go back and replay how to make the button if you're not sure how I made it. It's actually a lot simpler than it looks. It's just a matter of working through that process. So I hope you liked that, and I hope you'll join me again sometime soon for another Materials Design Masterclass.